Chapter 1, 102, 6th Year, Mince Pies. Wednesday, December 15th, 1976.
Okay, so I probably won't have time for another one of these until next term,
Remus told his study group, glancing at the nearby grandfather clock. It was almost 9 o'clock in the evening. He looked up at their eager faces and had to look down at his papers again. It was unnerving, commanding that much attention.
But I'm here almost every night anyway, so if you just had some quick questions.
Thanks, Lupin, the group chorused as they began to tidy up and disband.
Happy Christmas,
He nodded as they dispersed off to their own corners of the common room, or else to bed. He fancied an early night himself. It was the last week of term, and he'd pretty much completed all of his work, unless his professors were feeling cruel enough to assign more in the last days before Christmas. He yawned and stretched, leaning back on his chair with his eyes closed. Someone still sitting at the table cleared their throat awkwardly. Remus opened his eyes, embarrassed, and swung forward on his chair.
Oh, sorry. I thought everyone had gone.
Sorry,
Christopher replied, clutching a book.
I just wanted to say Merry Christmas.
Remus felt an awkward twist of relief and guilt in his midsection. Poor Christopher.
Thanks. Merry Christmas to you too. Big plans?
The younger boy shrugged.
Just family, you?
Staying here.
Oh, not by yourself?
Sirius Black is staying too.
Of course. I heard about the stuff with his family.
Mister.
Remus did not want to talk about Sirius with Christopher at all, but least of all about the Black family. Christopher was pure blood too, and likely knew more than Sirius was comfortable with.
Well,
Christopher made to stand.
see you in January, I suppose.
Wait.
Remus said, quickly, reaching out but not touching him. Christopher stood up but looked down on Remus, his eyes hopeful. Remus looked down.
I'm sorry about the way I spoke to you before the summer. I was a right git.
Christopher did not dispute this, but he smiled.
That's all right. I hope it wasn't something I did.
No.
Remus shook his head vehemently. He wished Christopher would sit down.
No, I promise. It was just me being a moody tosser. I had some other stuff going on. I shouldn't have taken it out on you.
Okay. Well, thanks for saying so.
Remus smiled, feeling a bit better. Christopher bit his lip, then said,
So, do you fancy a visit to Hogsmeade in the new year? The bookshop has a January sale on, or we could just get a butterbeer.
Sorry, Chris, I can't.
Remus felt horrible, and he saw Christopher's face fall.
Right, you're probably going with Potter and Black and what's his face?
Peter. But I'm not. Actually, I can't go to Hogsmeade, I'm banned.
Oh, really?
Really?
Remus nodded, earnestly, grateful that he didn't have to lie.
Is it to do with why you're not a prefect anymore?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a lie, but who was it hurting?
Wow, okay.
Christopher raised his eyebrows and Remus wasn't sure if he was impressed or mildly concerned.
Mooney!
Sirius's voice wailed down the stairs from the boys' dorms.
James is throwing snowballs at me. Stop him.
Remus laughed and began getting up.
Snowballs?
Christopher said wryly.
In your bedroom?
They open the window and scrape it off the roof.
Help us, Mooney.
Peter cried.
We need reinforcements.
I can't believe you're friends with that lot,
Christopher said, with a bristle of indignation.
They're so immature.
So am I.
Remus shrugged, rolling up his sleeves and standing up.
I'm coming, lads.
He yelled at the top of his voice, marching towards the staircase. Sunday, December 19th, 1976. It was a bitterly cold winter that year, and snow began to fall early over the castle. The marauders used this to great effect, and James perfected a spell which enabled the suits of armour which lined most of the classroom corridors to spit snowballs from their visors at various intervals. Remus liked the cold, or maybe he just liked wrapping up warm and sitting by the fire. In the winter, at least, no one asked why he wore long sleeves all the time, and he was excited. Maybe more excited than he had ever been for a Christmas holiday. He loved seeing the Potters, and he loved their house and their village, and being witness to a proper family for once. But to be alone with Sirius for an entire week, that was something he could never have imagined happening, even 2 months earlier. They walked James and Peter down to the edge of the grounds, as far as Remus could go. You sure? James asked. One last time. Ferox never said you weren't allowed, and Mum and Dad honestly wouldn't mind at all.
Next year, hopefully,
Remus shrugged.
It might all be over by then. And I couldn't live with myself if anything happened to your family because of me.
Black? You're really going to say no to Mum's mince pies?
Ah, but I'm not, my dear Prongs.
Sirius grinned from behind his red and gold scarf.
She sent some ahead. First thing this morning. I've got an entire tin full.
Foiled again, James smirked. He hugged Sirius and then Remus, who was surprised by it. He couldn't remember if they'd ever hugged before. Go on, get on the train, eh? Sirius punched him in the shoulder.
You'll have Evans all to yourself.
James winked at him, then hurried away, Pete scurrying along behind him, waving to Remus and Sirius. The two boys staying behind stood there for a little while, watching the black-cloaked students trudging through the pure white snow, all talking merrily about their plans for the break, the presents they looked forward to, and their eagerness to see their families.
See ya, Remus.
Christopher grinned at him, pink-cheeked as he strolled past.
Have a good one.
You too.
Remus nodded, smiling back. He felt much better, now the air had been cleared.
That kid again.
Sirius murmured.
Who is he?
I've told you before, he's a fifth year. In my study group.
Right. He looks like a complete drip.
He's okay.
Remus smiled to himself, hoping Sirius didn't notice. A nasty voice came from behind them.
What's wrong? Potter's kick you out too?
Remus reached for his wand as they turned, and half expected to see Snape. He was surprised to find that it was Regulus Black standing there in the snow, face pinched with cold.
No!
Sirius replied hotly.
I'm just staying here this year.
Why?
Regulus asked bluntly. He narrowed his eyes at his brother, as if waiting for the punchline.
None of your business, that's why. Now run along, little Reggie. I'm sure Mummy's waiting.
Regulus tutted and raised an eyebrow, as if to show that he would not rise to Sirius's bait. Remus hated it and clenched his fists, which Regulus either saw or sensed, because he gave Remus a sharp look, and Remus knew he was remembering their last altercation back in January. The younger boy visibly steeled himself, then spoke directly to Remus.
Not a prefect anymore, loony Lupin? I wonder why. Something to do with my delinquent brother, perhaps. Surely that greasy half-blood Severus wasn't telling the truth.
Remus might have swung for him if he wasn't busy stopping Sirius from doing the same. They struggled together in the snow, Sirius snarling,
Take that back, you brown-nosing little.
Fortunately, Remus was stronger. Regulus walked off, cackling, towards Hogsmeade and the train.
I can curse him from here.
Sirius growled once Remus let him go.
I'd rather you didn't,
Remus replied. He turned back to the snow-capped castle.
Looky,
He encouraged.
we've got it practically to ourselves.
Yeah,
Sirius said, distracted, still shooting, glanced back at his brother's footsteps.
come on then. Let's go in. Freezing my bollocks off.
His bad mood lasted until lunchtime, when they went down to the Great Hall.
Blimey.
Sirius said, as they entered the room. It was almost completely empty, with only 3 students, a Slytherin 7th year and 2 Ravenclaw 6th years, seated at the same table at the head of the room.
I reckon it's the war.
Remus whispered as they approached the table.
Parents want their kids home this Christmas.
Just you and me then, Moony.
Sirius grinned.
The orphans of Gryffindor Tower.
Despite the small party, the hall had been decked out in silver and gold, with glistening streamers hanging like angel hair from every rafter, a dazzling tree that seemed to glow from somewhere within its branches, and a flock of jolly red-breasted robins enchanted to circle the room and whistle familiar Christmas tunes. Remus thought that Flitwick had really outdone himself this year. Sirius sat beside him rather than across from him, as usual. They didn't make much conversation with the rest of the party. The 2 Ravenclaws were obsessively quizzing each other on arithmancy, and the Slytherin was deep in conversation with Professor Slughorn.
Remember first year?
Sirius said, as the food appeared. The house elves clearly weren't breaking for Christmas.
It was just you and me for Christmas then too.
Yeah,
Remus smiled at his shepherd's pie, warmed by the memory. He had spent every Christmas with Sirius since he was 11.
Electric Warrior.
We'll have to have a listen, later.
They did too. They stretched out on the rug in front of the fireplace and lay on their backs, playing the album at full volume. Sirius played Monolith twice because he knew it was Remus's favourite, and Remus tolerated 3 replays of Jeepster for Sirius's sake. Full, warm and content, Remus quietly drifted to sleep to the sound of Mark Bolan's pretty voice and twanging guitar. He woke up a little later, with a sore back. He turned his head and found he was alone on the carpet, and the record had stopped playing. Sitting up stiffly, Remus looked around for Sirius, who was seated a little way away, curled up in an armchair, whispering into his compact mirror. Remus relaxed, leaning back on his elbows, and watched gently for a while. the firelight warming Sirius's features with a fine glow, softening his sharper angles into supple Grecian marble. He was so achingly beautiful. Obviously everybody knew that. Sirius's beauty wasn't just for Remus, but sometimes it felt like it was. It had nothing to do with wanting Sirius then. It was something much more. It drove Remus crazy. Eventually, Sirius whispered a goodbye to the mirror and snapped it closed. He smiled at Remus and slowly unfurled, stretching his long limbs out over the sides of the armchair. Remus watched, unmoving.
How's James?
Fine.
Sirius replied, that look growing in his eyes that Remus had come to recognize as a signal that something wonderful about to happen. Sirius got up from the chair and sauntered over to Remus.
Misses me, obviously.
Obviously, Remus said, repeating without listening, just watching Sirius's approach. He towered over him, the firelight now blazing across him like a flare, streaks of gold flickering in his pupils. He sank to his knees astride Remus's still prone body and bent forward, not too far, not so far that Remus didn't have to stretch a little to close that extra space between them. He didn't mind. It was always worth the effort. They were used to each other now. Remus had thought it had been good in the beginning, the very first time. But after a month of secretive exploration, they had developed an intimate knowledge that Remus hadn't known you could have with another person. He felt as attuned to the various movements and reactions of Sirius's body as he was with his own. He knew the language in every gasp or tightening, the code in his kisses, or the shapes Sirius traced on his own scarred skin. It made the moment they parted all the more difficult, though. Sirius would be quiet at first, and Remus would just listen to his breathing, the hitch in his chest, the sighs of overwhelming calm. And he would wait for it. The laugh, the cheeky grin, the slap on the thigh that told Remus it was over, and they were back to normal.
Fancy a mince pie? I'm starving.
There it was. Sirius leapt up, grabbing his jeans and wriggling into them before waving his wand.
Axio biscuit tin.
The big royal blue tin came flying down the stairs and came at Sirius so hard it nearly knocked him over.
Oof.
Your wand work is too broad,
Remus said, buttoning his own trousers and pulling on a t-shirt. Too warm for a jumper. Sirius tossed him a mince pie, sitting back in the armchair, then rubbed his knee, wincing.
Carpet burn.
You should see my back,
Remus replied, as if they were discussing the weather. He settled into the sofa opposite Sirius. They ate their pies quietly. When he finished, Sirius licked the sticky fruit off his fingers and brushed the crumbs from his torso.
Aren't you going to put your shirt back on?
Remus inquired, folding the tin from his pie into neat triangular portions.
Nah, no one's here.
Yeah, but still.
Remus made a fruitless gesture. Sirius smirked.
Prude.
Remus laughed, flicking the folded-up tin at him.
Tart.